Thank you for staying tuned. It was a day of ballot, expectations and political choices in Osun State as the people went to the polls to elect their governor. From the early hours of the morning, voters moved through the streets and into polling units to cast their ballot. Kayode Oladosu reports.
From the light of the day, the streets of Osun State began to tell the story.
For about 9 months now, preparations, planning, campaigns, meetings, consultations, and expectations have been going on. Today brings that journey to a very important point.
Long before the ballot boxes arrived at some polling units, voters were already on the move, queuing at their various polling locations to cast the ballot in the governorship election. Voting commenced across the state's 30 local government areas, 332 wards, and 3,763 polling units as scheduled by INEC. From Ile-Ife, Ilesha, Ikiri, and other cities, the first order was accreditation. The bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, once again became a central feature of the process, verifying voters before they were allowed to cast their ballots. At several polling units, the procedure moved smoothly.
The pattern of voting should be from unit to ward and to local government.
In the local government, we have been doing it. No crisis for now. I want to believe it go like this till the end of the whole exercise.
See all over the state, and people are yearning for a change. So the most appropriate thing is for them to come out en masse and vote so that they can have a way of confirming that this is the kind of government that they want.
As voters waited their turn and officials attended to the exercise, the electoral process was orderly across many polling units visited. While voting ended, party agents watched closely and voters waited for sorting and counting of ballots.
We didn't have any problem, and our people too are comporting themselves orderly.
As results begin to come in from different polling units into the IREF portal, INEC maintains that the Osun election was progressing as planned. In Osogbo, Kayode Oladosu, NTA News.
All right, we have a guest in the studio, the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Mr. Adedayo Oketola. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Oketola.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. And I want to believe you followed everything that played out today, especially it will be a test to whether, the credibility of this election when expectations are high for a free, credible and inclusive election. What are your observations speaking from INEC stands?
Yeah, thank you very much. About 2 weeks ago when we had a pre-election assessment in Osun State, particularly during the Peace Accord that was organized by the National Peace Committee in collaboration with INEC. The Honorable Chairman of the Commission, Professor Joash Amukpito, SAN, did say that the Osun election will be determined not by the bullet, but by the ballot. And we're elated today that irrespective of the pre-election tension, that, the tension-soaked campaign that dominated Osun State, prior to the election. We're happy and elated today that the ballots have indeed spoken. The election has been very peaceful right from the beginning, and we're now towards the end of the whole process, and we are grateful to God that everything went as expected, as against the controversies surrounding the campaign before this election. So we are grateful. And if we go by the figures, INEC has done very, very well in this election. This is the fourth election conducted under the leadership of Professor Amukpito. And right from the first one, we had said it before, that we are tightened, we have fine-tuned our logistic strategy. And that strategy, which worked in Ekiti, also worked in Osun, because as of 8:30 a.m. this morning, over 94% of the over 3,700 polling units in Osun State were open for polls. You know, in fact, we had records. There were records that polling officials got to some polling unit by 7:30. You know, which means that that perennial problem of logistics, you know, that monster had been tamed. You know, so, and beyond that, you know, the expectation, there were a lot of mixed feelings about whether people should come out because of the, you know, because of the cloud of insecurity, you know, that was hovering over the election. We are very grateful today, and we were happy that our partners, the security agency, you know, which deployed, you know, their men in good numbers, also rose up to the occasion. We've not had any major security incidents, so the election, by and large, had been successful, and the turnout has been very good. You know, so, and our technology also performed optimally. The beavers devices, you know, performed very well. IREF is doing very well as we speak. As of 8:40 p.m. tonight, over 86% of polling unit results had already been uploaded on IREF. So what more can Nigerians ask for? We made the promises, and I think we have delivered. Thank you very much.
Mr. Oketola, it's good you reeled out all the observations from INEC stands, but there may be contradictory opinions. Aside adjudging this election as peaceful to a large extent, report from Yaga said 97%, you know, of accreditation and voting commenced as at 9:30 a.m., but you gave us 8:30 a.m. People who are on ground talking about election observers are really in their own numbers, but that's not to say that the process has not been seamless. But I'd like you to speak to some areas of concern in the aspect of, you know, intimidation, strings allegedly, and also vote buying allegedly. Did you get any report of such?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me quickly speak to the data that you mentioned. As far as elections are concerned in Nigeria, INEC is the authentic source of election data. You know, the electoral system, the electoral ecosystem is huge. There are a lot of stakeholders, you know, playing in that space, and of course, it is within their right to also generate their own data. But I want to implore Nigerians that when it comes to election, INEC is the final arbiter. INEC is the authentic source of authentic election data. Having said that, you cannot compare the result of the result with a sample size of 600 or 700 to a result that we generated based on what happened at the over 3,760 something polling units in Osun State. So if I say that 94.5% of our polling unit open at 8:30 p.m., over 3,000 of them, you can take it to the bank. That is the authentic figure from INEC. Yes, and if you're talking about intimidation, as INEC, we believe that the election had been very efficiently implemented, free and fair. The Osun voters, the electorate, you know, had a protected atmosphere, you know, to express their franchise. There may be pockets of incidences here and there that were immediately nipped in the bud. Generally, from the feedback, even on the screen in your studio, you can see that a lot of the electorate were able to exercise their franchise. And if you want to speak statistically, look at the figures of those who turned out. Then it is easy to conclude that the electorate in Osun had their say. You know, nobody was intimidated, nobody was prevented from voting. As I said, pockets of incidences here and there were handled, and the election proceeded as planned. On the issue of vote buying, yes, the Electoral Act has prescribed, you know, legal liabilities for both the buyer and the sellers of votes. Yes, so our job as INEC, as an electoral umpire, is to organize the election. But we have our partners, the security agencies and the anti-graft agencies, who are statutorily mandated to arrest, you know, vote buyers and vote sellers, because vote buyers and vote sellers are actually contaminants. They poison the fidelity of the ballot and the fidelity of the electoral space. So we do not have prosecutorial powers We cannot arrest them. And we trust that the anti-graft agencies would have done their job. I believe that arrests would have been made, and of course it is theirs, to carry out the investigation. As far as we're concerned, it's been a good day, and we hope that the process will continue, peacefully till the very end. Thank you.
Indeed, and that's the anticipation and the hope, especially from electorate there in Osun State. So I'd like you to speak to the issue of the beavers. I know that INEC stepped up its game, for this election, churning out thousands of beavers, to the state, 5,000 plus, because of the additional 1,000 plus we got to hear from reports. And there were RAC tech officers, that's registration area centers, tech officers, who were positioned to ensure that no glitch. And we're seeing new voters, for this election, come out, people who is their first time, doing this. Did you get any report string of, any report concerning maybe a glitch of the beavers? I know you mentioned earlier that it was seamless all through, but based on reports you gathered at your situation room, were there any instance of that?
Well, generally, when I say generally, the beavers performed optimally. Remember that we carried out a mock accreditation 2 weeks ago, where we have stress tested, the beavers that were configured for this election. So we had envisaged some of these things, and they've been corrected during the mock accreditation. So, and out of remember, initially we had planned, or we had configured about 4,000 beavers for this election. But the commission, at some point increased that number from 4,000 to about 5,500. And out of that number, about 1,300 or 1,400 are backup beavers, or beaver devices that are supposed to be deployed if, in any case, we have glitches and itches here and there. But generally, the beavers deployed for the election did very well. And if there were glitches, they were very insignificant. And of course, we have a rapid response system in place. The RATEX are deployed at the level of the registration area centers. So they are closer to the polling unit. So if you troubleshoot, the matter can easily be escalated to the RACs, and somebody will attend to it, and it will be resolved. That is why you've not gotten any major uproar in that area from Osun. If the beavers didn't function, the information space is so open. By now, we will be overwhelmed, with complaints about beavers. But beavers did, did very, very well. Remember, when you plan for the best, sometimes we proactively envisage that we may have glitches here and there. But generally, beavers came through today. Thank you.
So technologically, operationally, and logistically, INEC check. Right? So,
yes, we checked all the boxes.
Okay, so Mr. Oketola, we'll take a break. We'll be back shortly to continue this conversation. Do stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. The 2026 Osun governorship election was conducted largely under a peaceful and secure atmosphere across the 30 local government areas of the state, based on reports, with security personnel deployed to maintain law and order at different polling units. Temitokme Odebumi reports.
Although there were pockets of violence in some areas, particularly in Ilesha and Ijigbo, the police said security personnel responded promptly and were able to curtail the situations and prevent them from escalating as normalcy was restored and voting continued. The security architecture for the election involved about 25,310 personnel, comprising 15,000 police officers, 10,210 NSCDC personnel deployed across the state to safeguard the electoral process. In fact, a few arrests were made, as attested to by the police PRO in Osun State, who spoke with me in a telephone conversation. In a similar move, the National Public Relations Officer of the NSCDC says the deployment of personnel across the state contributed to the peaceful conduct of the election.
Before now, after the men of the call, they've gone through a series of training so that they will know the rudiments and the election engagement, and they'll be able to do it right as we normally do every election period like this. So, and we have zero tolerance for election malpractices, and apart from that, zero tolerance for vote buying and violence. So, we are good to go.
Meanwhile, distribution of sensitive electoral materials was also largely timely, with materials delivered to polling units to facilitate the commencement of voting. On the technology side, INEC deployed 3,763 BVAS machines across the state's 3,763 polling units, with an additional 664 devices kept as backups, making a total of 4,427 BVAS machines available for the exercise. However, the smooth conduct of the exercise was affected in a few polling units by technical challenges, as some BVAS devices experienced difficulties during accreditation. Despite these challenges, voting continued in most polling units, with electoral officials and security personnel working to address emerging issues and ensure that the process was concluded peacefully. Temitope Odebumi, NTA News.
All right, Mr. Oketola, you've seen reports in the aspect of security, which you also confirmed based on reports INEC gathered. But I'd like us to speak to something very crucial in the aspect of promoting inclusivity for every electoral process, persons with disabilities. What were the provisions in the aspect of assistive devices? Were they shortage, or were they reports of, instances where they were de-enfranchised?
Thank you very much. We went into this election, after we've done a comprehensive review of what is needed. Remember that we had a continuous voters registration, and in the aftermath of that exercise, we knew the numbers of registered PWDs in Osun and the polling unit where they are clustered. So those polling units were specially, provisioned, with the assistive devices, just like braille ballot, magnifying glasses, and other, assistive tools that are needed for people with disabilities. And this INEC is very, very big in the area of inclusion. And so we made proper arrangement for people with disabilities, and they were able to exercise their franchise. Some of the reports coming from Osun, also indicated that in polling units where PWDs had been captured, that they were seen to have exercised their franchise today. So we're not going to relent on our effort in promoting inclusion in future elections. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Oketola, let me just quickly speak to my colleague who joins us from Oshogbo. We tried to connect with him at the start of the news earlier. We were having challenge with his audio. He joins us via phone. Okay, great. I can see you. Mia Ogidi, you were at the collation center there in the state, in Oshogbo. So please tell us, earlier you were trying to, reel out some information regarding the number of persons they're still waiting for. So please tell us what you've gathered.
Thank you, Rose. As I earlier said, no, the audio was not clear then. It has been a long day for both journalists, the people of Osun State, and INEC staff. For instance, on the part of the INEC staff, four national commissioners were on the field, and resident electoral commissioner attending to issues that were raised by the voters. That took them up to about 4:30 p.m. First, they retired back to the state headquarters of INEC to continue with other activities like the setting up of the collation center and to be sure that everything is in order. This evening, everybody has gathered here again. Those that are accredited, observers, journalists, and other stakeholders are here at the INEC headquarters. Just behind me is where the collation center is. And they are probably, just a few minutes ago, about 5-6 minutes ago, I saw one of the INEC national commissioners, Dr. Ken Okegu, supervising the collation center to be sure that everything is in order. So I think any moment from now, when they are satisfied with probably the number of local government that have arrived at the headquarters for probably to announce the results, they may resume. Sorry, they may start that aspect of the exercise. But from recent experiences, this is a state with 30 local government areas, and I don't think they will start probably when they have one or two. They may like to probably gather them until when it is a sizable number, probably 70, 80% of the local government. Then we'll be talking about 20 or 25. They may start, or they may even decide to start when probably all the local governments have arrived. That is 30. So we are doing our vigil here. Anytime they call on us, we just gather at the collation center and let Nigerians know the outcome of the exercise. And that is the unofficial channel that can announce, because we may not rely on social media and other outlets apart from the independent National Electoral Commission that is powered to announce election results.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mia. You've just nailed it, especially with the fact that we see a lot of information flying on social media. So it's good that it's a vigil for you, but of course it's a lot of work for you. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep up with the development as they unfold. Well done, Mia. You're doing a great job there. And of course, talking to the viewers now, staying locked to the NTA, you get all the details you need regarding the update as they arrive at the collation center. Thank you so much, Mia.
Thank you, Ruth.
Great. Okay, Mr. Oketola, you've just had situation report at the State Collation Center from our correspondent there, who has been keeping brief. So talk to us now. This is a very crucial moment, and it says a lot in the aspect of integrity, credibility of every electoral process. What are your expectations when you're talking party agents, when you're talking even from INEC officials themselves, returning officers? This is very, very crucial. What would you advise?
Yeah, thank you very much. Recently, the Honorable Chairman of INEC led a very strong team to Niger State. And during that trip, the chairman, addressed staff members in Niger. And there was something he said that resonated with everyone. He said, that the eyes of the world are upon us. I mean, all of us at INEC. And that our job is to be professional and deliver free and fair elections to Nigerians. And that is, that is what we subscribe to as a commission. So the question of integrity does not arise. Right now, the polls have ended, and of course, if you look at the hierarchy of collation, he moved from the PU, to the registration areas. That's the wards, then to the local government, then to the state. So it's a process. You cannot railroad, people, to fast track this process in a way that affect the credibility of the results. So I will encourage everyone to. There's no doubt about the fact that our staff will do the right thing. They are well motivated, and the chairman had very strategic meetings with all the key staff in Osun State when we went for the pre-election assessment. So there's no doubt about the fact that we will do the right thing. So, but people should remain calm. Let us allow the process to run. The State Collation Center, as you can see, is ready, but we have to wait for the results to come. So the result must come. It is when the result come to the state that we start announcing. And I'm happy about what your reporter also said, that INEC is the only body statutorily empowered to declare election results. Nigerians, particularly the media, and citizen journalists, and all of us who are on social media, we should refrain from announcing results on social media or picking figures on social media, because that is a classic case of misinformation and disinformation, and it may further increase the tension in the system. We need to calm down. We are happy, we are elated that the election had been peacefully concluded, no major incidents, no life lost. That's a very good one for all of us, considering the fact that the road the road
leading to this.
the road to this election was, was replete with tension, with I don't want to start with all sort of things. Yeah. I don't want to say killings and arrests and all of that. We knew what happened before we got here. So today it's been a good day for the electorate in Osun State. It's been a good day for INEC. It's been a good day for our staff. So let's remain calm. But as I tell you, there's no doubt about the fact that our staff will do the right thing. Collations will go ahead as planned. And I believe at the end of the day, the will of the Osun people will prevail.
So very briefly, I need to let you go, but very briefly, this is also a test aside the Ekiti election we witnessed under the new leadership and count down just months ahead to the general election 2027. Should Nigeria believe in the process?
Well, with four elections, already conducted under the new leadership of INEC, from Anambra to the FCT council election to Ekiti election, which happened, concurrently with about 6, legislative by-election, and now Osun. There's no doubt about the fact that, INEC we're in an era of a rebirth. You understand what I'm saying? We're in an era of a rebirth under Professor Amukuton. Nigerians should rest assured that this INEC will do the right thing. Because when we go into an election, we don't have candidates. We go into an election as an unbiased umpire, having always done all the things we needed to have done, put our logistics in shape, and, train our officers, and, of course, motivate everybody. We go into an election fully ready as an unbiased, umpire. So 2027 is around the corner.
Yes.
Preparations are ongoing. INEC will, Nigerians should trust that INEC will deliver on the mandate for which it has been, it has been, it has been established. But it is also important to let Nigerians know that there is a difference between, and please, Nigerians must come out on election day. Voter apathy is a major problem. Elections are not cheap. When government spends so much money to conduct an election, it looks good when the people come out to exercise their franchise. Together we can further entrench and of course sustain our democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Oketola. And we witnessed new voters, for Osun, the side. So we're hoping that will be sustained and more Nigerians, will participate in that electoral process. Thank you so much for joining us on Weekend File. We do appreciate. And of course, fingers crossed now for Osun residents as they keep their hopes high, anticipating who the best man will be. I wish, someday I could say who the best woman could be, but we'll get there someday. So let's take a break. We'll be back.